we're back at the lake. It's quite nice to see the sun's coming through. Where is it? Yeah, the sun's coming through the weeping willow, so it looks really nice today. It's quite calm. I've just finished work, so quite tired, but I thought it'd be good to get out in the sun. This is like one of the hottest days of the year we've had so far. It's only March, but yeah, it's one of the hottest days so far. We're normally on like 5 degrees, but today we're on like 16, 17 degrees. So yeah, it's nice. It's amazing. I'm loving it. But I just, wanted to talk to some of you. Look at the light. Look how it's coming through there now. How nice is that? Maybe I'll just stay here for a second. There's no one around. Sun's beaming through. It's just lovely, isn't it? I don't know what it's just the simple things. You just got to enjoy the little things in life. It's amazing. Yeah, well, in this video, we're going to talk about how not to burn out. Well, not how not to burn out, but just give yourself the best chance of not burning out, because I've just come from work today. I'm tired. I was up at 5 and I was in only 8 hours, so it wasn't too bad. But there's some of you out there doing 12-hour shifts. And it's not just about the 12-hour shifts. I've got a partner who is on the phone constantly, on WhatsApp, talking about work. They're not even management level. They're just an operator. They're just not even high up in the corporate ladder. And constantly their phone's going off. It's the same with me, but I have learned from a young age. Fortunately, I went straight into management. I have been around a lot of people who have taught me how to deal with stress in the workplace and how to manage my stress. One thing I always thought that, because I worked in a 24-hour company, I always thought that I could make a change or always had to be on the other end of the phone, but that's not the case. I'd answer the phone if someone called me, but I wouldn't always be checking every single hour, every single day when I woke up, before I went to bed. It's similar to when you have that FOMO and you're always checking notifications because you're afraid you're going to miss something. You have that in work as well, where you're always afraid you're going to miss something in work, and if it's that important, they'll ring you, and if it's not that important, then it can wait. It's not always the case, but I feel like if a company thinks that it's pivotal for you to be always on your phone, they'll tell you that. No. So they put things in place where you are on call, or they put things in place that you're like an emergency contact. So yeah, don't feel too bad if you're not always on the phone, always checking work. It shouldn't be like that anyway, and the company should be doing more to mitigate stuff for that. I got a partner who isn't even working 24 hours and she's always on the phone. It's ridiculous. She's always on the phone checking to see what updates are and where she needs to be for tomorrow. And you need to have that disconnect from work. And I think what's good is having like a work phone and a personal phone, so that you can just turn the phone off when you come in and then just move on. I think that's what you need to be like. If you don't have that in place and you just have it on your personal phone, I really suggest getting just like a cheap phone, putting a new SIM card in there and just having that for work hours, and maybe giving a select few your personal number just in case of emergency. But yeah, you've got to protect your own mental health, because the thing is, if you're overtired and overworked, you're not going to be effective in work, and when you go to work then you're going to be underperforming, and then before you know it, you're going to be on a performance review, or you're going to be in the office for something similar. So yeah, and then you're just going to feel even worse. You're going to feel anxious and depressed and sad, and then you're going to be checking your phone even more, and you just can't disconnect like that, and you're never going to be in the right mental state to improve. So you've got to try and compartmentalize, I would say. That's what I call it, is compartmentalize certain things in your mind, where you can have a working day and a working finish, like a working day start and a working day finish, so you know ultimately that you're finished for that day. And it's probably more prominent when people who work from home. So if you're working from home, it's probably even more obvious, because your office is your house, so it doesn't feel like you should ever switch off. And I've only worked from home a handful of times, and I know how bad you can feel thinking I haven't done enough, or I haven't been on enough calls today, or I better not miss something because they're going to think that I'm not doing anything. And you're always thinking that throughout the whole day. And you need to realise that if you are not doing enough, then maybe do a bit more. But you'll know if you're not doing enough. And if you're not doing enough, just ask the question. You say to your boss, you know, I don't feel like I'm stretched enough in work, or I feel like I can take on a bit more, or, you know, can we have a quick catch up to understand that you're happy with my performance or you're not happy with my performance, because the longer you leave it go on, the worse it's going to get. So yeah, it's just nice to come out, innit? I love coming out here talking to you guys. I wasn't going to come out today because I'm quite tired, and I missed all this, like, it's crazy. This little geesey. I don't like this one. Yeah, but it's always nice to come out here for me and just walk around this lake. It's really peaceful. You know, I'd expect more people to be out right now because it's such a nice day, but it's just not the case. Oh my God, this is an amazing moment. I hope I get this. Look at that squirrel. Oh wow. That was really magical. Right by a blossom tree there. Oh, he's coming back this way, is he? Wow. Wow, that was so cool. That's insane. God, that was just a bit just for me, like. And this is like the best day of the year so far. Look at this blossom tree here. Hopefully I can set you up so you're not going to fall over. Yeah, it's alright, isn't it? It's a lovely day. Most of the days I come out and it's really busy, but today it's like really calm, really chill. I'm really tired, so I can talk to you a bit like this. Like I said, compartmentalise it in your mind. You need to have like this disconnect. Maybe it's a time view, maybe it's like, it's hard when you're on shift, and it's hard, well, if you're on shift, you're not working from home, so it's easy. You can go home and switch off, but you need to leave all the problems at the door. You know, if your job is higher up and you need to deal with stuff at home, fair enough, but you need to have that hour maybe. You can't just be on your phone 24/7. Or if you're on your laptop 24/7, you just can't do that. It's not sustainable. You're gonna let something go, or you're gonna let something drop, whether that be your social life, your home life, or your work life. And you need to realise why you're going for work. You don't have to spend your life and give up everything just for work, because one day you'll retire and then, you know, you'll have a great career to look back on, but you might not have a family and friends, and what's the point in that? I mean, that's my own opinion, you know, you do whatever you want to do, but that's just the way I see things. And I feel like, you know, I've worked in companies before, and I'm just giving you my experience and my advice. I think the best thing to do is to, and the way I've been dealing with it and the way I've been able to deal with things like that is compartmentalise it in your home life and also in your brain. Just think, right, I'm gonna wake up, say I work 8 till 4, I'm waking up at 7, I'll check my phone before I get in the car just to see if there's anything I need to know. Then I'll get in the car, drive to work, do my work day, which is 8 till 4, and then I'll get in my car and go home, and I'll be home by like 5. Maybe I'll check my phone between 5 and 6, and then from 6 o'clock I won't pick my phone up again, because what happens is if you pick your phone up at 9 o'clock at night and you read 9 o'clock at night and you read something that you feel like is important, you'll feel like you need to action it, or you'll feel like you need to say something, or you'll be anxious that you're going to come into that the next day. And sometimes within 24 hours the people who are there on site have resolved it, and that's probably what they're there to do. And the more you do that, the more you'll be more effective in work. In my opinion, that's what I've seen anyway. If you're just thinking about work all the time, you're not going to go in and be effective. You're always going to be thinking about things. And I think I had a good quote from my mum, and she said, like, you're juggling a lot of balls. If you chuck another one in the mix, you're going to drop the lot. Or another good one is, you're spinning a lot of plates, and if you add another plate to that spinning plate, another good one would be, what my mother says is, you're spinning a lot of plates, if you add another one, you're going to drop the lot. It's the same sort of thing, it's the same sort of advice, but I think it is really important to remember that you need to safeguard your own mental health, you need to safeguard your own personal time, because that's the time you need to decompress, and probably you'll solve a lot of the issues that you're having in work or in your life in that time where you're having that break. So yeah, that's why it's good to like decompress. People don't think of it like that, but it is true. Yeah, I just want to touch on that last point. Like, you know, what I was saying about taking that time to decompress and relax is a really important part of you succeeding or performing in work, and people don't realize that. Like, people, honestly, it's like probably one of the most important things you can do is decompress and relax, and people don't think that. How can that be a part of performing? How can that be a part of me performing better? And it's hard to explain, because it's really important. Like, you need to decompress, otherwise you don't have some of your best ideas, you don't have time to reflect. You're always thinking. Have you ever thought about something so hard that you can't move on? You're always fixated on that one little detail that you just can't get over, and sometimes when you have that time to reflect, you actually get over it, and you realise actually what I was worrying about wasn't that big of a deal, or you think light bulb moment, actually I can get over it this way. And that comes because you've actually decompressed and you've had some clarity, you've had time to clean your brain of any other nonsense that you were thinking about, because you're decompressing, and now actually you're only thinking about that one thing. So it sounds awful, right? It sounds mental, but you'd be surprised. Just try it. Give it a go. I'm just gonna sit here with the geese, I reckon. Do you reckon they're gonna hiss at me? Ugh. Hopefully don't kick off. It's unsettling, this is. Some people tell me that they can't switch off, or they can't calm down, or they can't take their mind off stuff. When I actually talk to people about switching off and decompressing, people tell me they can't do it. They tell me I just can't switch off from work. And let me give you a really good tactic and way of getting around that. So the best way of getting around that, and a really good tactic to actually deal with that, is like do a sport, go to the gym. Because if you do a sport or you go to the gym, you're focused on moving that weight, you're focused on the target, you're focused on hitting that ball back, you're focused primarily on that sport in that moment. And that is one of the best ways you can actually decompress and switch off from work, because you can't think about anything else. It's called, well, I call it distractional therapy. So what you do is you use something to distract your brain from the day-to-day issues or work life that's going on in your, and you can use that for anything. You can use it if you're stressed in the home, or you can use it if you're stressed in work. I use it all the time, but you've got to be careful you don't use it all of the time. Like, you can't just distract yourself from life, because the problems will mount up. The point of doing it is to distract yourself from the issue so you can decompress, allow yourself some mental clarity to think about those issues and think about getting over those hurdles, and then moving forward. That's the point of them. Like I said, football, tennis, netball, gym is a good one. Cardio is a really good one, half an hour. If you don't have a lot of time, take a half-hour run. But even things like this, like going for a walk, it doesn't seem like exercise. But if you're taking the time to bird watch, like bird watching, people don't realise that is like kind of a sport, because you're focused on the goal. If you go out there and you take a book, or you take a book and some binoculars, go out there and jot down what birds are around, you know, create a task for yourself. Just distract yourself from the tasks you've had all day. Do something just for you. My partner watches Spring Watch. It's not for me, but she loves it. And it's distractional therapy as well. And the TV is one of the biggest ways of distractional therapy. But you want to do something that's actually going to push you towards your goals. You know, if it's losing weight, you might want to go to the gym or go for a run. Oh, let's move from here. It's getting wet. Yeah, sorry, just move from there. Yeah, but one of the most obvious and known about distractional therapy is like television. The problem is when you're watching series and things like that, it just mounts, it goes from one into the other, and all of a sudden you've lost 4 hours of your life and you're not moving towards the goals you want to hit, so you just feel bad. Yeah, there's also things like meditation, walking, mindfulness videos and things like that that can take your mind off things and help you decompress. But the most important way to do it, or the most important thing I would say, is do something that aligns with your goals, because I know that I'm feeling better when I'm doing something that aligns with my goals. If I'm thinking I want to get in shape, then my way of decompressing is watching television and eating really nice food. And unfortunately, nice food predominantly is unhealthy, and watching TV, I'm not doing any exercise. So it's not that great. It doesn't really align with my goals. And in the long run, I'm not going to feel great. But that's a whole other thing. Although distractional therapy is kind of a different thing, it is on the same wavelength of burnout, because it can help you avoid burnout. Because you can't be in a position, you don't want to be in a position where you're on the sick, you're upset, you're anxious, and you're taking a lot of that home and taking it out on your partner or on your friends or on your family, because that's not what you want to be. You want to try and avoid that. And yeah, you need to put yourself first. If you don't put yourself first, you can't be there for others. That's the whole point. You can't be there for others, but also you can't be there for yourself. It's full circle, isn't it? That's the way I think. It's full circle. You got to look after yourself so you can look after others. And if you look after others and you're in a good enough state to look after others, then you'll be able to perform pretty well in work and in your life. But for me, it's all one and the same. So just look after yourself, guys. Avoid the burnout. Keep on keeping on. Make sure that you're putting yourself first, guys. I hope this video helped. Let's go. There's one more thing I wanted to say, because we like to talk about personal experiences, and I like to give you some actual things that I've been through and why I think they'll help, or hopefully they'll help. I hope that these personal stories will help you. So I'll give you one that I've experienced. So I was in a job, I was in a management role, and from my boss, I was learning, I was new, I was a new manager at the time, and he said to me, you need to be on your phone constantly. You need to know absolutely everything. You need to know everything that goes on in this place as soon as you walk through the door. And although it did help me get better at the job quicker, it didn't help my mental health. It didn't help in the long run. I was going home, I was having dreams about work, I couldn't switch off, I was really, really struggling, and people used to say to me when I was in work, you look like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I was like, no, I'm not too bad. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. But obviously people could see my body language. I was struggling. I was in a position where I was struggling. I was struggling to meet the targets, meet deadlines. I was struggling to perform. Because I was new at the role, I had no idea. And every day I came back, it was a learning day. My mother was a real big help during that time. She said to me that you don't know what you don't know, and you are on a graduate scheme. I was on a graduate scheme at the time, so yeah, I was greener than green, really. I didn't have a clue. So everything I was learning, I was seeing for the first time. And you learn best through experiencing. And I did learn quick, and I failed fast, and I learned a lot. But unfortunately, I was struggling mentally. But fortunate for me is I had a lot of people around me who cared about me, especially my mother. She was a big support while I was in that scenario, and she said to me, you need to be proud of yourself for what you're doing. But also, I had other managers in work with me who said to me, you need to switch off. When you leave that door, you need to switch off. You leave all the problems in work. They'll be there when you come back. There's people who come after you who will deal with things, and there's people who will be here when you're not here. You're not expected to know everything. And I said to him, well, that's what my manager said. And they said to me, yeah, that's fine, that's what they always say. They're not going to know everything either. And some of them do know a lot, but I guarantee after a year or so, there's things that you'll know better than them, because you'll be there doing the job. So when you're new, it's also a big pressure to perform. And you might feel like you're not performing, but that's not the case. It's just, you don't know what you don't know. And you will get better, and you will perform. You just need to have patience and know that. And it's okay to push back and say that, I can only do so much. I can only deal with so much. You can't deal with everything, and sometimes you need to push back and say that. But yeah, like I said, I was dealing with a lot in that time, and what they said to me was just try it. Just don't look at your phone over the weekend. don't look at your phone tonight and just see what happens. Just try it. So what I did was, that's what I done. I tried that, and I came in and I was worried. I read an email that came like 5 days ago because I was on shift, and it was addressed to me, and I hadn't replied to it. And I asked the people around me in work, and I said, like, what happened with that? And they said to me, oh, we dealt with it. It was fine. It was fine in the end. And I was like, God, if I was fretting when I was going in that day. So when, had I read that on the first day I was off, I may have rung a colleague in work, or I may have replied instantly. And really, it was not that big a deal. I don't think it was in the end. I can't remember what it was about, but it definitely was not a big deal. It did not need addressing by me that day. And that's the thing. And having said that, that same person who put me under that amount of pressure, and they probably didn't realise they put me under that amount of pressure, said to me, when I had an issue, I said to him, should I call the other manager? And he said, I don't want you calling anyone else on their days off. It's their days off and it's their time to relax. Now, I didn't realise that he was like that. I didn't realise that. I thought that what he was saying was gospel. I thought what he was saying was to the letter. Like, he says, you got to know everything. I thought that meant like everything now, and that needs to be done, and I need to read my emails. But sometimes we can misinterpret things. We sometimes are too scared to ask for clarification. We're too scared to follow up on questions and push back. And sometimes people don't realise what you're dealing with, and people don't realise that actually there's too much to deal with in one day, or there's too much to deal with in your specific role. And sometimes you might misinterpret what they're saying, so what they're asking and what you're expecting to do might be two completely different things, which is what I do a lot. So it's always good to get clarification, and it's always good to, try and put yourself forward. There's nothing wrong with asking, there's nothing wrong with following up and just clarifying, let's just be clear, what are you asking me to do? I don't quite understand. It sounds like you're asking me to do this, and 9 times out of 10, you're like, you've got completely the wrong end of the stick. And if they are asking you to do it, just say, how would you expect me to do it? Currently I do A, B, and C, and you expect me to do D, E, and F, and I don't really think I got time. And then have those discussions, and you might find that you'll be better. You might find they'll say, we'll drop A, B off you. Can you continue doing C, but we need D, E, and F. So I hope this has helped. But I just want to add that little bit in, because I think it's always easier to have an experience and compare yourself and learn from that, really. Hopefully that has helped. Ciao, guys. Bosh. I don't know, is that waffle? I don't know.